The discovery. The sleek, biometallic hull of the Zarthanian exploration vessel, Nebula Seeker, vibrated softly as it glided through the cosmic void. Captain Ixura, her iridescent scales shimmering under the ambient light of the bridge, leaned forward in her command chair, multifaceted eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. "Approaching uncharted solar system D9847, announced First Officer Vex, his tendrils twitching with excitement. Initial scans show 8 planets orbiting a yellow dwarf star. Ixura's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Another routine survey, then. Let's hope this one holds more promise than the last dozen systems. As if in defiance of her words, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. The Nebula Seeker lurched violently, sending crew members sprawling across their stations. "Report," Ixura barked, gripping her chair tightly. "Massive gravitational anomaly." Vex shouted over the cacophony of warnings. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered. Our engines can't compensate." The ship's hull groaned under the immense strain as it was pulled inexorably towards the heart of the solar system. Ixura watched in horror as the trajectory plot showed them hurtling towards the third planet, a blue and white marble suspended in the void. "All hands, brace for emergency atmospheric entry," Ixura commanded, her training kicking in despite the unprecedented situation. The next few minutes were a blur of noise, heat, and terror. The Nebula Seeker's advanced shielding fought against the friction of the alien atmosphere, painting the sky with streaks of plasma. Just when it seemed the ship would be torn apart, they broke through the cloud cover, and Ixura caught her first glimpse of the planet's surface. "Impossible," she whispered. Below them stretched a landscape that defied explanation. Vast cities, their spires reaching towards the heavens, stood silent and empty. Highways curved between the metropolises, devoid of life yet strangely intact. It was a world that bore the unmistakable marks of civilization, but one that seemed to have been abandoned months ago. There was no time to process the sight. Vex's skilled piloting, aided by the ship's AI, managed to level their descent, but the ground was approaching fast. They skimmed over the tops of the alien skyscrapers, their hull screeching as it clipped the edge of a particularly tall building. With a bone-jarring impact, the Nebula Seeker plowed into a wide plaza, skidding to a halt at the base of a colossal statue. As the dust settled, an eerie silence fell over the ship. Ixura shook her head, trying to clear the daze from the impact. "Status report," she croaked. One by one, her crew responded. Miraculously, there were no serious injuries, though the ship had seen better days. "Hull integrity at 62%, Vex announced, his usual composure shaken. "Primary engines are offline. We're grounded, Captain." Ixura nodded grimly. "Initiate emergency protocols. I want a full damage assessment and repair estimate within the hour." She turned to her science officer, Zara. "What can you tell me about our landing site?" Zara's compound eyes flickered as she processed the sensor data. "Atmosphere is breathable, surprisingly close to our own requirements. No signs of toxic compounds or pathogens, but I'd still recommend envirosuits for any external exploration. Temperature and gravity are within acceptable parameters." She hesitated before adding, "Captain, preliminary scans indicate this entire planet is covered in the remnants of an advanced civilization. But there are no life signs. None." The implications hung heavy in the air. An entire world, clearly once home to a spacefaring species, now stood silent as a tomb. "Our priority is getting off this rock," Ixura declared, pushing aside her scientific curiosity for the moment. "Vex, take a team and begin repairs. Zara, I want you to set up a perimeter and gather as much data as you can about our surroundings. We need to understand what we're dealing with here." As her crew dispersed to their tasks, Ixura made her way to the exit hatch. She needed to see this alien world with her own eyes. The air that rushed in as the hatch opened was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of metal and stone, but noticeably lacking the organic odors one would expect from a living world. Ixura stepped out onto the cracked plaza, her gaze drawn upward to the statue they had crashed beneath. It depicted a bipedal being, its form both familiar and alien. 2 arms, 2 legs, a single head with forward-facing eyes. A body plan shared by countless species across the galaxy. Yet there was something about its stance, the determination etched into its featureless face, that sent a shiver down Ixora's spine. "Captain," Zara's voice snapped Ixora out of her reverie. "You need to see this." Ixora followed her science officer to a raised platform at the edge of the plaza. As they approached, lines of alien script lit up along its surface, pulsing with a faint blue glow. "It's some kind of information terminal," Zara explained, her tendrils waving excitedly. "It activated as soon as we got close. I think it detected our presence." Before Ixora could respond, a shimmering hologram sprang to life above the terminal. It showed the solar system they were in, focusing on the 3rd planet, the one they now stood upon. "This world," Ixora murmured. "What did the database call it?" Zara's translation matrix worked furiously. "If I'm interpreting this correctly, they called it Earth." The hologram zoomed out, displaying the entire solar system. Suddenly, a flashing indicator appeared in the outer reaches, beyond the orbit of the system's ice giants. "Captain," Vex's voice crackled over the communicator. "We're picking up faint energy signatures from the outskirts of the system. They're artificial in origin." Ixora's scales rippled with anticipation. "Can we get the long-range sensors online?" "Already done," Vex replied. "Transferring data to your location now." The hologram terminal flickered, then incorporated the new information. Ixora and Zara watched in awe as the image resolved into a massive fleet of ships, hidden among the icy bodies of the system's Kuiper Belt analog. "By the cosmic egg," Zara breathed, her scientific detachment crumbling in the face of the discovery. Those vessels, the level of technology required to construct such a fleet, let alone preserve it for what must have been millennia. Ixora nodded, her mind racing. Whatever happened here, whoever these humans were, they left behind more than just a deserted world. This fleet, it's their legacy, and we just stumbled upon it. As if in response to her words, the hologram terminal pulsed brightly, and a new image appeared. It showed one of the alien ships, easily dwarfing their own Nebula Seeker. Schematics and data streams surrounded the image, hinting at capabilities that bordered on the impossible. "Captain," Vex's voice came through again, tinged with urgency. "Long-range scans are showing movement among the fleet. I think the ships are activating." Ixora felt a mix of excitement and trepidation wash over her. They had come to this system for a routine survey, and instead found themselves at the heart of a mystery spanning eons. An advanced civilization, vanished without a trace, a world left pristine in its abandonment. And now, a fleet of unimaginable power, stirring to life after countless years of slumber. "Alert the crew," Ixora commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "As soon as the Nebula Seeker is space-worthy, we're going to investigate those ships. Whatever happened to this Earth and its people, the answers lie out there among the stars." As the alien sun began to set on the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty city, Ixora couldn't shake the feeling that they stood on the precipice of a discovery that would change the course of galactic history. The true nature of humanity's legacy awaited them in the cold depths of space, and she was determined to uncover it. Unraveling the mystery. The Nebula Seeker shuddered as it broke free of Earth's atmosphere, its hastily repaired hull groaning under the strain. Captain Ixora stood rigidly at the command center, her scales shifting colors with barely contained excitement and apprehension. "Status report," she barked, eyes fixed on the holographic display showing their approach to the Kuiper Belt. First Officer Vex's tendrils twitched as he responded. "All systems operational, Captain, but I wouldn't push them too hard. We're held together by improvisation and sheer will at this point." Ixora nodded grimly. "Noted. Zara, what can you tell me about the fleet?" The science officer's compound eyes flickered rapidly as she processed the incoming data. "It's extraordinary, Captain. We're detecting over 1,000 ships of varying sizes. The largest are—" She paused, double-checking her readings. "Over 15 kilometers in length." A hushed murmur rippled through the bridge crew. Ships of that size were thought to be theoretically impossible by most spacefaring races. As they approached the fleet, the sheer scale of the vessels became apparent. Sleek, angular ships hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, their dark hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light. "Life signs?" Ixora questioned, though she already suspected the answer. Zara shook her head. "None, Captain. Just like the planet. But there's something else." Her voice trailed off as she focused on a new reading. "I'm detecting a power source activating on the nearest ship. It's hailing us." Before Ixora could respond, a beam of energy lanced out from the massive ship, enveloping the Nebula Seeker in a soft, blue glow. Panic erupted on the bridge as systems began to power down. "Report," Ixora shouted over the commotion. Vex's hands flew over his console. "All systems are being overridden. We're being pulled in." The crew watched in a mix of terror and awe as their small ship was drawn towards a yawning bay door on the side of the colossal vessel. As they passed through an energy field, artificial gravity took hold, gently setting the Nebula Seeker down in a cavernous docking bay. Ixora took a deep breath, steeling herself. "Zara, Vex, you're with me. The rest of you, stay alert and be prepared for anything." As the trio stepped out of their ship, the scale of the human vessel became even more apparent. The docking bay alone could have housed a small fleet of ships like the Nebula Seeker. "By the cosmic egg," Vex whispered, his usual composure shaken. "What kind of beings could have built this?" Before anyone could respond, a holographic interface sprang to life before them. Alien symbols flashed across its surface before resolving into a language they could understand. "Welcome, explorers," a disembodied voice echoed through the bay. "You have been deemed worthy to access the legacy database. Please proceed to the central chamber for initialization." The floor beneath them began to move, carrying the startled aliens deeper into the ship. They passed through corridors that seemed to stretch for kilometers, occasionally catching glimpses of vast, dark chambers through transparent sections of the walls. Finally, they arrived at a spherical room dominated by a pulsing, crystalline structure at its center. As they cautiously approached, the crystal flared to life, projecting a holographic image of a bipedal being, a human. The hologram spoke, its voice resonant and clear. "Greetings, I am the Custodian, an artificial intelligence created to safeguard humanity's legacy. You have questions. I have answers. But first, you must prove yourselves worthy of the knowledge I possess." Ixora stepped forward, her captain's training kicking in despite the surreal situation. "I am Captain Ixora of the Zarthanian exploration vessel Nebula Seeker. We come in peace and with great curiosity about your creators." The custodian's expression remained impassive. "Curiosity is good, but the legacy of humanity is not to be taken lightly. You must demonstrate not only intelligence but also wisdom and ethical reasoning. Are you prepared for the trials ahead?" Ixora glanced at her companions, seeing her own mix of trepidation and determination mirrored in their faces. She turned back to the custodian and nodded firmly. "We are prepared." "Then let us begin," the custodian intoned. The room darkened, and new holograms sprang to life around them, depicting scenes from Earth's history. Humanity's journey was one of triumph and tragedy, of incredible achievements and terrible mistakes. The custodian narrated, "Your first task is to analyze key moments in their history and derive the lessons they learned." The aliens found themselves immersed in vivid recreations of human events. They witnessed the horror of world wars, the wonder of the first moon landing, the devastation of climate disasters, and the jubilation of scientific breakthroughs. As each scene faded, they were presented with complex ethical dilemmas based on the events they had witnessed. They debated amongst themselves, drawing on their own species' history and philosophy to tackle questions that had challenged humanity for millennia. Hours passed as they worked through scenario after scenario. The custodian observed silently, its impassive gaze revealing nothing. Finally, as they completed the last challenge, the custodian spoke again. "You have shown admirable reasoning and compassion, but knowledge without action is meaningless. Your final test awaits." The room shifted once more, and they found themselves standing on what appeared to be the bridge of the massive ship. Through the view screen, they could see a planet that looked remarkably like their own homeworld. "This simulation represents a pivotal moment in your own species' future," the custodian explained. "A cosmic threat approaches, one that could annihilate all life on your world. You have access to technology that could save your people, but using it would violate your most sacred ethical principles and forever change the course of your civilization's development. What do you choose?" Ixora felt the weight of her entire species' future on her shoulders. She turned to Vex and Zara, seeing the same conflict reflected in their eyes. We need to discuss this," she said, her voice hoarse. The custodian nodded. "Take all the time you need. But remember, in reality, time is often a luxury you do not have." The trio huddled together, their conversation intense and punctuated by gestures towards the simulated threat looming on the view screen. Finally, Ixora straightened and faced the custodian. "We've made our decision," she announced, her voice steady despite the turmoil she felt inside. As she explained their choice and the reasoning behind it, the custodian's expression changed for the first time, showing what could almost be described as approval. "You have chosen wisely," it said as the simulation faded away. "Not because your choice was right or wrong, but because you weighed the consequences, considered the ethical implications, and made a decision you were prepared to stand behind." The crystal at the center of the room pulsed brightly, and suddenly, the aliens felt knowledge pouring into their minds. The history of humanity, their triumphs and failures, their hopes and fears, all cascaded through their consciousness. As the flood of information subsided, the custodian spoke once more. "You have proven yourselves worthy of humanity's legacy. But with this knowledge comes great responsibility. The threat that humanity prepared for still looms in the dark between the stars. Will you take up their mantle and continue their mission?" Ixora, her mind reeling from the influx of knowledge, looked at her companions. Despite the enormity of what they had just experienced, she saw determination in their eyes. She turned back to the custodian, her voice filled with resolve. "We will. For the sake of our own people, and in honor of humanity's legacy, we accept this responsibility." The custodian nodded solemnly. "Then let us begin. There is much to learn, and the fate of the galaxy may well rest in your hands." As the room around them transformed into a vast educational interface, Ixora couldn't help but feel a mix of exhilaration and terror. They had come seeking knowledge and found a cosmic purpose. The true nature of humanity's legacy was beginning to unfold before them, and the implications were staggering. The mystery of humanity's disappearance was only the beginning. The real challenge, and the true adventure, lay ahead. Awakening the fleet. The vast chamber hummed with energy as Captain Ixora, First Officer Vex, and Science Officer Zara stood before the custodian eye. The crystalline structure pulsed rhythmically, casting ever-shifting patterns of light across the aliens' iridescent scales. "You have proven yourselves worthy of accessing humanity's legacy," the custodian intoned, its holographic form flickering slightly. "Now you must learn to wield it. The fate of the galaxy may depend on your ability to master the technologies left behind by humanity." Ixora stepped forward, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the dancing lights. "We're ready," she declared, her voice steady despite the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The custodian nodded, and suddenly the chamber transformed around them. They found themselves standing on what appeared to be the bridge of the massive ship, surrounded by sleek, otherworldly consoles and displays. This, the custodian explained, is the neural interface deck of the HSS Prometheus, flagship of humanity's Exodus fleet. From here, you can control not just this vessel, but the entire armada. Vex's tendrils twitched with excitement and trepidation. How is that possible? The computational power required to manage thousands of ships simultaneously is beyond your current understanding. The custodian finished. Humanity's quantum neural networks operate on principles that may seem like magic to you now, but in time, you will comprehend. Zara approached one of the consoles, her scientist's curiosity overcoming her initial hesitation. As her hand hovered over the smooth surface, it lit up, responding to her presence. Incredible, she breathed. It's as if the ship is alive. In a sense, it is, the custodian confirmed. The fleet's systems are a hybrid of organic and inorganic components, capable of learning, adapting, and even evolving. Now, let us begin your training. What followed was an intense crash course in operating technology so advanced it strained the aliens' comprehension. They learned to interface directly with the ship's systems using neural links, their minds expanding to encompass the vast network of the fleet. Ixora gasped as she first connected to the neural network. The sensation was overwhelming. She could feel the heartbeat of every ship in the fleet, sense the cosmic radiation washing over their hulls, taste the void between the stars. Focus. The custodian's voice cut through the sensory overload. You must learn to filter the input, to direct your attention where it's needed. Hours passed as they practiced, gradually gaining control over the flood of information. They learned to navigate the complexities of faster-than-light travel, to manipulate energy fields that could reshape matter itself, and to access vast databases of knowledge accumulated over millennia of human exploration. As they worked, the custodian shared more about humanity's history and the events that led to the creation of the Exodus fleet. Humanity faced a threat unlike any they had encountered before, it explained. A cosmic horror that devoured entire galaxies, leaving nothing but cold, dead stars in its wake. They called it the Void Hunger. The aliens listened in rapt attention as the custodian recounted humanity's desperate race against time, how they poured all their resources and ingenuity into creating a fleet that could outrun the encroaching darkness, how they seeded the galaxy with hidden outposts and technology caches, hoping to give future civilizations a fighting chance. But if they were so advanced, Vex interjected, why didn't they simply confront this void hunger directly? The custodian's holographic form seemed to flicker with what might have been sadness. They tried. The losses were catastrophic. In the end, they realized that preservation and preparation were the best hope for the galaxy. So they left, transcending their physical forms to become beings of pure energy and thought. They spread themselves across the cosmos, watching, waiting, and preparing for the day when they might be needed again. Ixora's mind reeled at the implications. And now, you believe that day is coming. The signs are there, the custodian confirmed. Subtle disturbances in the fabric of space-time, echoes of the hunger's approach. That is why you were guided here, why you were chosen. Before the aliens could fully process this revelation, alarms blared throughout the ship. Displays flashed to life, showing a massive energy surge emanating from the fleet. What's happening? Zara cried, her hands flying over the console before her. The custodian's voice was urgent. The fleet is awakening. Your presence, your acceptance of the responsibility, has triggered a reactivation protocol. The ships are powering up, preparing for their long-dormant mission. Through the neural link, Ixora could feel the stirring of the vast armada. One by one, ancient reactors roared to life, weapon systems came online, and long-dormant AIs began to boot up. This is too much, Vex stammered, overwhelmed by the sensations flooding through the neural link. We can't possibly control all of this. You must, the custodian insisted. The fate of the galaxy depends on it. Focus. Remember your training. Ixora gritted her teeth, forcing herself to concentrate. She reached out through the neural network, imposing her will on the chaotic awakening of the fleet. Gradually, the cacophony of signals began to organize themselves, falling into a semblance of order. That's it. The custodian encourage. Direct the power flow. Stabilize the quantum cores. Bring the fleet to full alert status. For what felt like hours, the three aliens worked in perfect synchronization. Their minds melded with the ship's systems. Sweat beaded on their scales, their bodies trembling with the effort of controlling energies beyond their wildest imaginations. Finally, the alarms fell silent. The displays showed a sea of green indicators. The entire Exodus fleet was online, awaiting commands. As the aliens slumped in exhaustion, the custodian's holographic form expanded, filling the chamber with a soft, blue light. "You have done well," it said, its voice resonating with approval. "The fleet is awake, and you have proven your ability to control it. But this is only the beginning." The chamber's walls became transparent, offering a breathtaking view of the now active fleet. Thousands of ships hung in the void, their hulls gleaming with otherworldly energies. In the distance, Earth was visible, a small blue marble, silent witness to the rebirth of its children's legacy. "What happens now?" Ixora asked, her voice hoarse from exertion. The custodian's form shifted, coalescing into a map of the galaxy. Bright points of light winked into existence, scattered across the spiral arms. "These are the hidden outposts left behind by humanity," it explained. "Each contains knowledge, resources, and technologies that you will need in the coming conflict. Your first task will be to reactivate these outposts, to gather the strength necessary to face the void hunger." Zara's eyes widened as she studied the map. "There are hundreds of them. It could take years to visit them all. Time is a luxury we may not have," the custodian warned. "Already, the hunger stirs at the edges of the galaxy. You must work quickly, efficiently. The fleet is at your command, and with it, you have the power to traverse vast distances in the blink of an eye." Ixora stood, her posture straightening as she embraced the mantle of responsibility placed upon her. "Then we'd better get started. Vex, plot a course to the nearest outpost. Zara, begin analyzing the data we've gathered so far. We need to understand every advantage these ships can give us." As her crew sprang into action, Ixora turned back to the custodian. "Thank you for entrusting us with this. We won't let humanity's legacy be in vain." The custodian's form began to fade, its voice growing distant. "Remember, Captain, the technology is a tool, but it is your courage, your wisdom, and your compassion that will ultimately determine the fate of the galaxy. May the stars guide you on your journey." With that, the custodian vanished, leaving the aliens alone on the bridge of the Prometheus. Through the view screen, the vastness of space beckoned, filled with both promise and peril. Ixora took a deep breath, feeling the power of the fleet thrumming through her neural link. "Helm, prepare for faster-than-light jump. Our mission begins now." As the Prometheus and its fleet of thousands prepared to leap into the unknown, Ixora couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. They had come seeking knowledge and found a destiny. The true test of their worthiness was yet to come. The human legacy. The HSS Prometheus surged through the quantum foam of subspace, leading a vast armada of ships towards the first of humanity's hidden outposts. On the bridge, Captain Ixora stood motionless, her iridescent scales reflecting the swirling energies visible through the view screen. The neural link hummed in the back of her mind, feeding her a constant stream of data from the fleet. "Coming up on the coordinates now, Captain," First Officer Vex announced, his tendrils twitching with anticipation. Ixora nodded. "Bring us out of FTL, standard approach pattern." "Zara, what can you tell me about this outpost?" The science officer's compound eyes flickered as she processed the incoming data. "It appears to be a research station orbiting a brown dwarf star. Initial scans show it's approximately 15 kilometers in diameter, with multiple docking bays and what seems to be a massive central core. As the fleet dropped out of FTL, the outpost came into view. It was a marvel of engineering, a gleaming structure of impossible geometries that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Sections of it phased in and out of reality, hinting at dimensional manipulation beyond the aliens' comprehension. By the cosmic egg, Vex breathed, "How are we supposed to even dock with that?" As if in response to his question, a section of the station stabilized, a docking bay materializing and extending an energy tether towards the Prometheus. "It's inviting us in," Zara said, her voice filled with wonder. Ixora squared her shoulders. "Well then, let's not keep our hosts waiting. Vex, you have the bridge. Zara, you're with me. Let's see what humanity left behind for us to find." As they made their way through the docking procedure, Ixora couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The neural link was feeding her information about the station, but much of it was incomprehensible, hinting at technologies and concepts so advanced they strained the limits of her understanding. The airlock cycled, and Ixora and Zara stepped into the outpost. The interior was a stark contrast to the Prometheus, where the ship was all sleek lines and pulsing energy conduits. The station was a riot of organic curves and crystalline structures that seemed to grow from the walls themselves. As they ventured deeper into the station, holographic interfaces sprang to life around them, displaying streams of data and diagrams of unimaginable complexity. "This is incredible," Zara murmured, her scientific curiosity overriding her initial trepidation. "These displays, they're not just showing information, they're creating it. It's like the laws of physics are suggestions here, not rules." Ixora was about to respond when a familiar voice echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, inheritors of humanity's legacy. I've been expecting you." The custodian's holographic form materialized before them, but it was different somehow. More solid, more present. "You're here," Ixora said, surprised. "I thought you were bound to the Prometheus." The custodian smiled, an oddly human expression on its ethereal face. "I am everywhere and nowhere. A fragment of my consciousness resides in every ship of the fleet, every outpost, every piece of technology humanity left behind. I am the guide, the teacher, and the guardian of humanity's legacy." "Then guide us," Ixora said, her voice firm. "What is this place? What secrets does it hold?" The custodian's form expanded, encompassing the entire chamber. Suddenly, Ixora and Zara found themselves immersed in a three-dimensional representation of the galaxy. "This," the custodian explained, "is the nexus of transcendence. It is here that humanity made their final preparations before ascending beyond physical form. And it is here that you will begin to truly understand the nature of the threat you face." The galactic map zoomed in, focusing on a region of space near the galactic core. A writhing mass of darkness pulsed there, tendrils of void reaching out to engulf nearby stars. "The void hunger," Zara whispered, her voice filled with horror. The custodian nodded solemnly. "An entity as old as the universe itself, driven by an insatiable appetite for energy and matter. It devours entire galaxies, leaving nothing but cold, dead space in its wake. Humanity fought it for centuries, but even with all their advanced technology, they could only slow its advance." "But surely," Ixora interjected, "with the power of this fleet, we can destroy it." The custodian's expression turned grave. "If only it were that simple. The void hunger is not merely a physical threat, it is a conceptual one. It doesn't just consume matter and energy, it consumes possibility itself. Every civilization it devours narrows the potential futures of the universe." The holographic display shifted, showing the evolutionary history of countless alien species, including the Zarthanians. As they watched, timelines branched and merged, forming a complex web of potential futures. "This," the custodian continued, "is what humanity sought to preserve. The infinite potential of life in the universe. They realized that to fight the void hunger directly was to play into its game, to narrow the field of possibility. So they chose a different path." The display changed again, showing the construction of the Exodus fleet and the hidden outposts scattered throughout the galaxy. Humanity seeded the galaxy with the tools and knowledge needed to combat the hunger, but they left the execution to younger races. They believed that diversity, of thought, of culture, of approach, was the key to ultimately defeating the threat. Ixora's mind reeled as she tried to process the implications. So, we're not just inheriting their technology, but their mission, their responsibility to the entire galaxy. Precisely. The custodian confirmed. But you are not alone. Even now, other races are discovering similar outposts, awakening to the threat and their role in combating it. Your task is not just to fight the void hunger, but to unite the galaxy in a common cause. Zara, who had been quiet for some time, finally spoke up. But how? How can we possibly coordinate on such a scale? How can we convince other species to join us? The custodian's form coalesced into a more humanoid shape, its expression earnest. That is where humanity's greatest gift comes into play. Within this station lies the key to transcending the limits of your current form. Humanity left behind the means for other species to follow their path of ascension. The chamber around them transformed, revealing a vast, pulsing core of energy at the heart of the station. Streams of data and quantum entanglements flowed into and out of it, connecting to similar cores in other outposts across the galaxy. This is the Ascension Engine, the custodian explained. With it, you can evolve beyond your physical forms, expanding your consciousness to encompass the entire fleet, the entire network of outposts. You can become like gods, shepherding the younger races, and coordinating the fight against the void hunger on a galactic scale. Ixora and Zara stood in stunned silence, the enormity of the choice before them almost too much to bear. But be warned, the custodian continued, its voice solemn. This is not a decision to be made lightly. To ascend is to leave behind everything you know, everything you are. You will become something other, neither fully organic nor fully machine, but a synthesis of both. The power will be immense, but so too will be the responsibility. Ixora turned to Zara, seeing her own mix of fear and excitement mirrored in her companion's compound eyes. We need time to process this, to discuss it with the rest of our crew, our people. The custodian nodded, understanding in its ethereal features. Of course. But remember, time is not on our side. Even now, the void hunger draws nearer. The choice to ascend is yours, but know that humanity believed it was the best hope for the galaxy's survival. As the holographic displays faded, leaving Ixora and Zara alone in the vast chamber, the weight of their discovery pressed down upon them. They had come seeking knowledge and found a legacy beyond imagination. The fate of not just their own species, but of all life in the galaxy, now rested in their hands. Ixora's gaze was drawn to the pulsing core of the Ascension Engine. In its swirling energies, she could almost see the echoes of humanity's final moments. Their hopes, their fears, their dreams for the future they would never see. What do we do now, Captain? Zara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ixora took a deep breath, straightening her posture as she made her decision. Now, we prepare, we learn, and when the time comes, we'll face this choice not just as individuals, but as representatives of all those who still have a future to fight for. As they made their way back to the Prometheus, Ixora couldn't shake the feeling that they stood on the precipice of a new era. Humanity's legacy was not just a gift, but a challenge, a call to become something greater than they had ever imagined. The true test of their worthiness was about to begin. A new era begins. The bridge of the HFY Prometheus hummed with tension as Captain Ixora addressed her crew. The holographic displays showed the vast fleet surrounding them, each ship a testament to humanity's foresight and ingenuity. Beyond the fleet, the nexus of transcendence pulsed with otherworldly energies, a constant reminder of the choice that lay before them. You've all been briefed on our discoveries, Ixora began, her scales shifting colors with the intensity of her emotions. The threat we face, the void hunger, is beyond anything our people have ever encountered. And the solution humanity proposed. She paused, her multifaceted eyes scanning the faces of her crew. Well, it's equally unprecedented. First Officer Vex stepped forward, his tendrils twitching nervously. Captain, with all due respect, are we truly considering this? Abandoning our physical forms, becoming whatever it is the ascension engine would turn us into? Science Officer Zara interjected, her voice filled with a mix of fear and excitement. The potential benefits are enormous. The ability to coordinate on a galactic scale, to process information at speeds we can barely comprehend. We could unite the galaxy against the void hunger in ways that would be impossible in our current forms. The ensuing debate raged for hours. The crew grappled with questions of identity, morality, and the very nature of existence. Some argued passionately for ascension, seeing it as the next step in their evolution and the best hope for saving the galaxy. Others recoiled at the idea, fearing the loss of their individuality and the abandonment of everything they had ever known. As the discussion reached a fever pitch, a soft chime sounded throughout the ship. The custodian's holographic form materialized in the center of the bridge, its expression solemn. "I apologize for the interruption," it said, its voice resonating with urgency. "But we've detected a disturbance at the edge of the system. Something is coming." The main view screen flickered to life, showing a region of space near the outermost planet of the system. At first, there was nothing but the cold light of distant stars. Then, almost imperceptibly, the stars began to wink out, one by one. "By the cosmic egg," Vex whispered, horror creeping into his voice. "Is that?" The custodian nodded grimly. "A tendril of the void hunger. It seems our activities have drawn its attention sooner than anticipated." Ixora's mind raced. They weren't ready for this. The fleet was operational, yes, but they had barely scratched the surface of its capabilities. And the rest of the galaxy remained unaware of the threat, disunited and vulnerable. "What are our options?" she demanded, forcing calm into her voice. The custodian's form expanded, encompassing the entire bridge. Suddenly, the crew found themselves immersed in a tactical display of the system. "The fleet can engage the tendril," it explained, "but doing so will alert the main body of the void hunger to our presence. We would be fighting a delaying action at best." Holographic representations of various scenarios played out before them. In each one, the fleet fought valiantly, but the void hunger's advance was relentless. Stars winked out by the thousands, then millions, as the simulations progressed. "There is another option," the custodian said softly, its gaze fixed on Ixora. "The ascension engine. If you choose to use it, you could coordinate the fleet with perfect efficiency. You could reach out to other civilizations instantaneously, unite them against the threat. You could rewrite the very laws of physics in localized areas, creating weapons and defenses beyond anything you can currently imagine." The weight of the galaxy seemed to press down on Ixora's shoulders. She looked at her crew, seeing the same mix of fear, determination, and hope that she felt roiling within herself. "How long do we have?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "At the tendril's current speed, perhaps 6 hours before it reaches the outer planets of this system. After that." The custodian didn't need to finish the sentence. They all knew what was at stake. Ixora took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as she came to a decision. "Vex, begin evacuation protocols for any civilian ships in the system. Zara, I want you coordinating with the custodian to prepare the ascension engine. The rest of you." She paused, looking each crew member in the eye. "The choice to ascend is a personal one. I won't order anyone to go through with it. But know that if we don't act, billions will die. Not just in this system, but across the galaxy." The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity. As her crew rushed to carry out their orders, Ixora felt a strange calm settle over her. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and the unknown. But for the first time since they had stumbled upon Earth's abandoned fleet, She felt a sense of purpose, of destiny. 5 hours later, Ixora stood before the pulsing core of the ascension engine. Around her, those of her crew who had chosen to join her in ascension waited with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Through the neural link, she could feel the approach of the void hunger's tendril, an emptiness that defied description creeping ever closer. "Are you ready?" the custodian asked, its holographic form shimmering beside the engine's core. Ixora nodded, words failing her in this moment of transformation. She reached out, placing her hand on the swirling energy of the core. Her crew followed suit, forming a circle around the engine. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a surge of power that defied comprehension, Ixora felt her consciousness expand. Her physical form dissolved, replaced by a network of energy and information that encompassed the entire fleet, the nexus of transcendence and beyond. She was everywhere and nowhere, her mind racing across light years in the blink of an eye. She could feel the thoughts and emotions of her crew, now part of the same vast consciousness. And she could sense the void hunger, its alien presence a blight on the fabric of space-time. With a thought, Ixora brought the fleet to life. Thousands of ships moved in perfect synchronization, their weapons charging with energies that warped the very nature of reality around them. She reached out across the galaxy, her expanded consciousness making contact with countless civilizations simultaneously. In an instant, she shared the knowledge of the threat, the legacy of humanity, and the urgent need for unity. As the tendril of the void hunger entered the system, it was met not just by the Exodus fleet, but by a united front of ships from 100 different species. Weapons of impossible power lashed out, driving back the cosmic horror. For the first time in eons, the void hunger knew fear. But this was only the beginning. Ixora and her ascended crew knew that the real battle lay ahead. The main body of the void hunger still lurked in the depths of space, a threat to all of existence. Yet, as they coordinated the galaxy's defenses, as they unlocked more of the secrets left behind by humanity, they felt something they hadn't dared to feel before: hope. In the heart of the nexus of transcendence, a fragment of the custodian's consciousness observed the unfolding events with satisfaction. Humanity's legacy had found worthy inheritors, beings who had risen to the challenge and taken up the mantle of guardians of the galaxy. As the ascended beings that were once Ixora and her crew guided the united fleets of the galaxy into formation, preparing to take the fight to the void hunger itself, the custodian allowed itself a moment of pride. Humanity's greatest creation had been not their technology, not their fleet, but the spark of courage and determination they had ignited in others. A new era had begun. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere, in the vast expanses of the cosmos, the ascended consciousness of humanity watched, ready to welcome their children home when the final battle was won. The end, and a new beginning.